Hello guys, how's it going? It's Noob here, and welcome to the start of a new series. This new series is going to primarily focus on Tech 1 Frigate PvP. Now you might be wondering, why Tech 1 Frigate PvP? And I had to have a bit of a think about this one. Essentially, the reason why I came to EVE and why I started playing EVE, and I feel a lot of people feel the same way, was to get into PvP. And as a new player that's primarily playing solo and in a time zone where there's not many corporations or alliances active, I found myself in a bit of a quandary. And that quandary was, well, how do I find fights? And when I do, how do I make sure I don't die in 5 seconds? What sort of ship should I be flying? I don't want to spend too much ISK because I need that to do other things in the game. And the questions all loomed over me, and it probably took me about 6 months to a year to really figure it out. And look, there's plenty of resources out there, and there's plenty of, I guess, ways to understand this, but I'm going to try and simplify this. I'm going to try and make the series centered more on the fact of the ships that you can fly as a low level or a low skill player, so it doesn't hurt your pocket as much. There's a lot of advice out there that just says, oh, just fly Tech 1 frigates, and it doesn't elaborate. So I'm going to try and elaborate so that a lot of these newer players that are coming into the game, or if you are a newer player that's come into the game, you can see what I mean by Tech 1 frigate PvP exactly, what are the rough budgets, and what are some of the ships that are going to help you win some fights, or be very close to winning some fights. Even that in itself is an achievement. So I want to start with the primary focus on how to PvP and where to PvP. These are questions that can be answered pretty simply, but they can also be very complex in the sense of, well, it depends what you want to do. Now, as a new player, the first response you will ever get to where to PvP is faction warfare space. And that's fine. It's not a bad response. But there is some issues that are inherent in that, particularly for the fact that for the amount of time that I've been playing this game, the most experienced PvP pilots that I've met in the game have been in faction warfare space. And as a new player going into that space, you're not going to have the best time, particularly when as soon as you warp in you die, or you don't know what to engage, and people know how to engage you. And yeah, it's a tough one. Look, it's got its positives and its negatives. Its positives are that you are practicing your PvP against some of the best pilots at PvP in the game. And trust me, that makes a big difference. Its negatives are you might get disenfranchised or demotivated after a solid, I don't know, let's say 10 days of dying in a row, and you might not ever return to faction warfare space, which is probably not the best, but you know what, faction warfare space does have its positives in the sense that you can get some very solid fights, some really good experience, and trust me, the majority of the players, if they see that you are a new player and they've killed you in a ship that's not fit correctly, they're going to pay you, they're going to give you advice, most of them anyway, and that's going to make you better in general. So faction warfare space is probably one of the places to look at first. And if you're unsure on how to find faction warfare space, I've made videos in my other series around tools like Dotlan. So Dotlan's a great way to find faction warfare space. There's also in-game tools as well. You can obviously use the in-game map, and that's got filters up here that have factional warfare filters. You can see here. So if we did this, and we looked at filters around you, let's just say malicious ships destroyed in the last hour. This is only going to show you space where that's actually occurring, and you can see the dots here, and you can sort of make your dissemination on which way to go. There's also other sort of filters in there too, and you can see all the different Minamatar. There's Minamatar space around me. Up here there's probably more Minamatar space. There's Galente space up there. That's all faction warfare space. So you can do it like that too. There's another way to look at this too, which is through the in-game menu for faction warfare. If you're in a station, particularly the trade hubs, where there's faction warfare services available. You can open this up and this will show you everywhere that you can go to do faction warfare. Now, the topic of faction warfare itself is a long and complicated one. It's basically two militias fighting each other. You can enlist in the militia to go and fight for that militia, and that's things like killing NPCs and holding points, kind of like capture the flag. So that gives you loyalty points, which I've explained in my last video around mission running and how to use loyalty points. But you can basically do that as a game mechanic, and it's a great way to make money for new players as well. Now, that doesn't mean to go into faction warfare space that you need to be enlisted in a militia. You could literally go into faction warfare space and start killing people because it's in low security space. So in essence, you don't have to be in faction warfare to go into faction warfare to fight. Please note that if you are enlisted and you come across players from your own militia, fighting them will cause you loss in security status, and it will cause you potentially loss of your militia status as well. So there is an advantage and a disadvantage to enlisting. A lot of the players that purely PvP, they're pirates. So they will be flying around this space killing everything that they see. And you know, their corporations are generally pirate corporations, or their alliances might be pirate alliances. So, you know, just be wary of that. There is that mechanic underlying when you enlist. So that's one place that you can definitely PvP, and you can PvP straight away, straight out of the gate. The second area of space that a lot of players neglect is null security space. I have had some very interesting fights and some great kill mails going into null security space. Null security space is like the Wild Wild West. Just think of it as there's no rules, there's no police, nothing, and whatever you do there, it doesn't have a consequence, apart from obviously bringing back a whole bunch of guys that might chase you for a couple of jumps. Now, the pros obviously are that you're not going to lose your security status, and you know, it's like the Wild West, so if you kill someone there, no one knows about it technically from a EVE game lore perspective. However, the cons of null security space are there are certain mechanics in that space which are going to put you at a disadvantage, particularly fighting larger groups or being caught in traps. And these are called things like warp disrupted bubbles, or you know, you've got interdictor probes and all that sort of stuff. That it's gonna be a bit trickier to navigate your way around and to have intelligence in null security space. So you obviously don't have the advantage of the police if someone attacks you, or gate guns if you get caught on a gate. And there's also things like bubbles and disruptors which stop you warping away. And you know, a common tactic is to jump into a system and the gate has a big bubble around it, and you've got two options. You can either try to get out of the bubble and warp away, or you can try to go back to the gate before they kill you and jump back. So there are those mechanics to consider. The third area of PvP is basically wormhole space. Wormhole space is an interesting one. Personally, I don't do much PvP in wormholes for two reasons. One, there's not many players in wormholes, and whenever I jump into one, I generally see nothing but stealthy ships, which as soon as they see me on scan, run away. And two, you probably want to PvP with a stealthy ship in wormholes, and that's where stealth bombers are amazing. Technically, they're frigates as well. So yeah, I mean, these are the three main areas. You can PvP in high security space, but it goes into a bit of a grey area where it's things like duels or finding people that have bounties on their heads and, you know, not falling for a bounty scam, all that sort of stuff. Look, as a new player, don't PvP in high security space. There's a lot of complications around how the security status and system works. I highly recommend you have a great understanding of that before you go in and try to PvP in high security space, even to do things like ganking, which might, you know, interest you later on down your career in EVE PvP. Alrighty guys, that's it for today's video. The next episode is going to be on the Mighty Tristan. I'm going to talk about the three primary fits on the Tristan. I'm hoping you guys are enjoying my channel. For all my new subscribers, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. I am actually following up from some advice I took from a comment in shortening my videos and trying to keep them a bit more concise and on topic. Hopefully this video has proven that. If you have any more tips and tricks, let me know. I'm going to try and mix things up and add sort of like a highlighted comment of the week. So type in your comments below and let me know what you think, and maybe you'll be on the next video as well. Thank you so much. If you did enjoy the content, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next episode. Noob signing out.